Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio here live from Zipline down right by the ballpark. I can see the stadium right out the window here. It's a great morning to be in Omaha, Nebraska. Maybe not quite as great of a night as it was to be in Omaha, Nebraska last night. But I got Damon Benning here with me, as I always do. We've got Aaron Fitt joining us in the first segment from D1 Baseball. Aaron, DB, how we doing this morning?
Good. I'm better. Like, this is one of the originals for me.
Yeah.
Doing broadcasts, talking to the great Aaron Fitt. We get him on air. We've had him for the last, 8, 9, 10, 12 years. But just to see him in person again, man, you get the good old-fashioned handshake. You look sharp.
I remember I'm rolling in here as a bright-eyed young sports writer like 2005.
Yep.
I feel like hanging out with you guys and breaking it down. It's good, great to see you.
It's cool. It's almost come full circle because I started a Carolina fan, and here we are after they took a couple of years off. By a couple, I mean 6, but who's counting? And we're back talking North Carolina again with you, which is great. I just remember, John Manuel, and we would talk long toss and baseball, and they've broken my heart on several occasions here, but I actually kind of feel pretty good about them this year, and I think you do too.
I do. I think they're built as well to win here as anybody. Really, maybe better than anybody because, first of all right, you got Vance Honeycutt and you got Anthony D'Onofrio in the outfield. And
they can run.
We always talk about the value of range out here in this ballpark. This park is so much bigger. The outfield's so much bigger than anywhere these guys play all year long. And those guys steal hits like it's their job. It's incredible. Honeycutt's the best defensive player in the country. Of course, he's Mr. Clutch. He had the big hit yesterday to walk off Virginia. But and secondly, I love teams that have great bullpens. And they've got the best bullpen.
Yeah, they can go 4 or 5 deep.
There's not a lot of those teams.
And Ben Pence is on a heater. Like he came out of the bully. He was second guy out from the bullpen after
Poston. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I feel good about this. Like
for sure,
he's just composed and he's been dealing the last 3-4 weeks.
And it's just, it's simple because I'm just going to come at you with this heater. It's a ride fastball. It's going to be in the zone. He's not going to walk you, and you're not going to square it up. He locates and he attacks and competes. And if you got a guy like that, how many times do we see it? Every year we see it. To win this thing, you got to have a real dude at the back end. And I think he's, out of all these 8 teams, he's the best guy.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I'm talking to an FSU diehard here, so it's like the tale of two pitching kind of mindsets. But why do you think more people just aren't aggressive and in the zone? I get it. It was a tight zone last night. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of nibbling, though. I'm like, maybe Tennessee's offense strikes that kind of fear in you. And we saw FSU, 1 through 6, they can compete with just about anybody.
Florida State's offense, even all the way, really through 8, I would say is as good as you're going to find. I think they're, and that's why I don't think they're out of this thing yet, really. I think they can slug their way back through and hang around for a little while. I think their offense, not only is it really, really good, but it's hot. They've been dialed in for at least a month. And so, but they had that game, man, and it's just, for me, the key was in the 9th inning, you bring in your guy, Brendan Oxford, and he walks the first batter he faces. Kennan Peebles, who's hitting like 200 on the year, and
it's like stealing an out, right?
Exactly. You got to get that guy. Christian Moore, Blake Burke are looming a couple batters away. You got to get that guy. And that was the one that it felt like it kind of got away from him. And from there, Tennessee just, they took it with their ability to square up the baseball. It's just, missiles everywhere.
How many 2-out hits was that in a row? 6? Was it 4?
4
straight 2-out hits.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Because they got to 9 before the 2 outs, and then it was 4 straight 2-out hits after that. But yeah, this is an old baseball guy thing, right? But when you have a reliever come in, he walks the first guy, you're just like, well, that's not going to go well. Because it never does, right? Especially in that situation, like you said, Moore's coming up, and that dude was just hitting piss missiles the entire night. There was, that was one of the best hitting performances I've ever seen from anybody because it wasn't just the cycle, right? Which is incredible.
He did it attacking the zone in a multitude. He got it over the outer half, the inner half, kept the hands back on the off speed that he kind of guided into the left field corner. Like, he showed you kind of the full repertoire.
And he hit a ball 117 miles an hour to dead center. I mean,
Which nobody hits a ball out here at dead center.
I mean, come on. That's insane. I think you had another one that's 115.
The hybrid 3-wood, right? Just,
Exactly.
Just the Tiger Low stinger.
It's a stinger. God, that was special, guys.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable performance by Moore. But it does a lot of it go back to me to, you said the great bullpen for North Carolina. There's not a lot of great bullpens in college baseball.
What'd you text me last night?
I just said
he simply said
college
bullpens.
I think I just said college bullpens, man. Because I was trying.
We've been on it all year.
I was trying not to swear in the moment because I was. Listen, it was an incredible game, right? I've been obviously coming to these games since I was a kid, and like one of the best games I've ever seen. I would have preferred not to have a rooting interest in that particular game, but or be on the other side of the rooting interest, obviously. But an all-time day in Omaha between the two games, and I like not to try and be prisoner of the moment here or anything, but I don't remember a better one.
Not a better day one.
Well, yeah, you've never had two walk-offs, so that automatically puts it in the discussion of GOATs. But isn't it crazy how we watched two different styles? We saw pitching and low scoring and situational, and you felt like the next run was going to be the one to win it. And then 5 hours later, it's
number's big enough?
What number's going to be enough?
Hold on for dear life. Somebody asked me when Florida State was up 9-4, is 9 runs going to be enough to win this game? And I said no.
I was sitting there thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and
he's panicking, and I'm thinking, hey, they got time, right? No, it's not enough. Left too many there. Like, feel like they left it out there, and
they did, especially early, right? Like they had opportunities early, and then you've got, I think in the first inning they only got one. They had bases
they kicked
loaded,
it around a little bit
Sure,
too. Everybody talks about Tennessee's shaky nerves. Florida State
was not sharp.
They had, Tennessee had no business scoring that many runs early. They shouldn't have never been behind. Throw strikes,
and then you've got
make a play at the plate, hang on to the ball,
hang on to the ball at the plate, or actually see your third base coach as your guy boots it in the outfield, and Florida State doesn't score on that one.
Apparently, he missed the bag, is what happened.
Yeah, I think. Did you see him kind of check back? Like I'm in agreement.
Well, I mean, apparently the audio picked that up. He said, "I missed the bag."
Yeah,
and the coach is like, "Why the f did you? How did you miss the bag?"
I'm in agreement there.
I didn't see the replay on that, so that makes way more sense. But again, like that's a run you've got to have, right? Like you've got to be able to get that run. And listen, I mean, if they had scored 12 instead of 11, I imagine Tennessee would have scored 13 instead of 12, right? Like that was just kind of the night that Tennessee was having. But it wasn't a super clean game, but wildly entertaining.
Oh, and Florida State extended. I mean, Tennessee got it to
11-6.
Had been 9-7, and then they got 2 more to get to 11-7. I was like, okay, like they probably got
11 might be okay.
Yeah,
I knew 9 wasn't. I thought 11 might be okay.
Yeah,
I like the distinction of the initial walk, right? Because you don't get the out to a guy that's hit near the Mendoza line, and you're almost thinking, God, that feels more like a double right now.
It felt enormous.
It felt enormous. At that point, I was like, this is not going to end well. Especially since Whitaker is, Connor Whitaker's their guy. And they had to, he was spent at that point. I think they had to take him out.
Yeah.
But, clearly like Oxford is kind of their next guy. And here's the problem is once you get past Whitaker, they don't have a Pence who's going to beat you with a fastball in the zone.
Yeah. It's a lot of soft
and they got good guys. Yeah. Guys who spin it well. But I mean, like Tennessee's too good. You got to have a fastball to beat them, and they just didn't.
Well, and it felt like a moment thing to me. Like he did not seem Oxford when he came in. It felt like he was not up for it.
Well, I was worried just because of his arm slot. Not to get too super techie here, but I didn't think that he couldn't throw hard enough to get in under right-handers' hands. Right. So their plate coverage was just like, I mean, how many guys do you think were sitting off speed? Probably all.
It's 88 to 89,
Just because I think they could make the adjustment if they had to.
Gear up.
And he's a 70% slider guy anyway.
So it's like
it's
if you can't get under these guys' hands, I just don't know how you can get them off the plate.
Right, exactly. It's tough.
That's not as big of a problem against other teams, but against Tennessee, like that's not happening. That's not working.
Exactly. You can still win a lot of games with spin in college baseball. Yeah. That's why you see that. And Florida State had a lot of success with those guys.
Yeah.
Well, we saw it in day one or in game one with Honeycutt. He pulled a ball that was on the outer edge. When you don't throw as hard, location as is important. But him getting his bat head out to pull that ball that's on the outer edge, I mean, it looked like, well, why would you pitch to him? And I thought the same thing. I'm like, I get it, but it's not like Virginia's not familiar with Cook either. Well, and you get the righty-lefty.
I felt the same thing in the ninth inning when I was like, why did Moore get anything to hit?
Yeah.
Why did he get a single? Like, I'd intentional that thing. Just like you've got, like, go send him to first base. Let's make somebody else beat me.
That's tough though. When you put the
it would have been the tying run on the time
at second base. I mean,
but I was pretty sure he was going to hit a home run. It felt like he's going to tie it anyway.
So when he fouled the ball off to run the count to 2-2, and he's talking to the bench, in my head, I'm thinking that's a guy that's in the zone. Because we saw two different approaches. We saw a game-winning hit where you couldn't get any expressions. Mm-hmm. But more, he's literally talking to the bench. Like, I just want to know, like,
his comfort level was off the chart.
It had to be through the moon, right? Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, that's good. I got this.
Like, that to me,
good enough. I got this. And it's like, wait, you're supposed to be dialed in, but he's like almost giving himself the play-by-play.
He was like so dialed in that he didn't have to be like blinded. Like, he didn't have to have blinders on anymore.
Yeah.
It is like you get to a point where you're not just focused, but you are so dialed in and comfortable that the blinders come off and you kind of see everything clearly and you're good to go. And he was obviously in that place last night because, like,
I wonder what the baseball looked like to him, right? Because he saw three different kind of styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
It wasn't just like, oh, he's seeing Arnold really well.
His first lefty, right? He could kind of run it in there, low 90s. Then you come back and you get a righty in an angle where he's not going to overpower you, but really good with his location. Where he
deception.
Can keep you off,
he's got
can keep you
fastball
off
life.
balance.
He's got slider. Whitaker's good. Man.
Yeah. Then you saw another kind of. I almost want to say. Well, I'm not going to say soft tossing because I know you get mad.
I only
he's a spinner,
left-handed breaking ball guy,
right? So
crafty.
There were just three different styles, and it looked like he saw them all like he was hitting off a tee.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's like you said before, just a special performance. Really, one that we'll remember. I mean, it's as good an individual performance as I've probably ever seen here.
Yeah, we saw, and I think we saw they put it up here. A couple of graphic overlays of guys like Cags, and I mean, yeah, 33 home runs, 37 home runs, another 33 home runs. It's a lot of leaving the yard pop representing the SEC.
So I got to ask Aaron, because I grew up in Gorilla Ball era, like coming to Omaha, LSU.
Did you tell me you're an FSU fan?
Yeah, I mean Marshall McDougal, six home runs. Like,
yeah.
that's my guy, right? And so, although I was a huge Matt Diaz guy, I love Matt Diaz. I used to go watch him at Rosenblatt when he was coming up with the Royals.
Yeah.
Love Matt Diaz.
By all accounts, a great dude, by the way.
Really?
Matt Diaz.
That makes me feel good. He was just like a really good hitter.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't McDougal, but that guy.
Did you see JD Drew here last night?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Man, talk about, good hitter. Played a little time with my Red Sox too.
That's right.
But the thing that I was trying to figure out this year, right? It's been a couple of years where the power numbers started coming up. Did they finally just figure out how to, like, what's happening with these power numbers? Because like the BB court stuff hasn't really changed significantly. Like, what is going on here? Because it went from like, hey, if you get double digit home runs, you're a masher,
right.
to now we've got guys that are these numbers are McDougal had 28 that year total. We've got multiple guys with 30. Like, I don't what's happening?
We have eclipsed the Gorilla Ball era. Home runs per team per game. It's higher than it was in 1998.
Which was the 21-14
national title game,
yeah.
when the game was broken and we had to dial down the bats.
I thought it was incredible.
Well, the game was broken. It was a joke. 21-14 was a disgrace. It was a black guy for the sport.
I was 11 years old. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, the game is out of balance again. Is what's happened. Now, why is that? There's lots of people say, oh, the strike zone, TrackMan. The zones are tighter. Okay, that's part of it. I think that's part of it. Older guys in baseball because of COVID. Fine. All right. There's.
You know what I think it is?
I think the balls are juiced.
Okay, maybe.
It's always on the majors.
So speaking of which, with all these oblique and guys swing who's your guys? You got both Cruzes, right? O'Neill and Ellie.
Yeah. I'm a big exit velo guy.
These guys swing the bats so hard.
Yep.
Right? They just don't get cheated with cuts. It's like you see the corkscrews, the balance, the weight transfer. It's like these guys barrel balls up.
It's like if you watch the U.S. Open this week. I don't know if you guys are golf guys.
Oh, 100%.
Dudes are swinging out of their. It's just a different world. We're not playing the Freddie Couple smooth tempo game anymore.
Yeah,
Zach Johnson's not winning the U.S. Open anytime soon.
They probably looked at Ernie Els, who was the big easy, right? He hit it a ton, but if his bat can go bad with that easy a stroke, I think guys are just like, you know what? I'm gonna swing as hard as I can, as long as I can.
And I think that's part of it too. That just the way that the game in general has evolved. It's the analytics will tell you you're better off taking your strikeouts and going for the home run. That's part of it too. And pitchers chasing velocity means there's less strike throwing, and there's going to be more fastballs in the zone. You're on time with them. All that stuff is part of it. But I just think if you look at the trends since COVID, when we came back to the pandemic, everything just went. It was so dramatic. It was such a dramatic spike.
How about these ballparks though? All these rebuilds and not renovations, but they mess with the dimensions. Like I remember when Arizona was here a handful of years ago, and they were talking about moving ballparks and their dimensions.
2013,
right? Trying to keep up with what guys were attracted to being recruited. And I think maybe ballpark dimensions may have a little bit to do with it.
There's
a ton of bandboxes.
Well, for sure, in the ACC and SEC especially. I mean, it's just bandbox central. And back then during the dead ball, dead bat era, early in BB Corps, you have places like Oregon and Texas where it's like, geez, it's impossible to ball out of here. We got to move the fences in. So there are a couple of places did that, but again, I just think like. There's a lot of coaches who agree, that we're basically using the major league ball. I don't know if we had a bunch of extra balls during the pandemic they had to get rid of, so they just put a college label on them.
Hit them
I'm
in
just
the
telling
microwave.
you, it's insane. We're playing with Pro Vs.
Well, especially because I would think if it was the thing that we saw with Major League Baseball is when guys just started saying like, hey, it's worth it to go for to just go for the home runs. Is you saw like batting averages come down and like. These guys are hitting 380, 400 still with the 30 home runs. That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, okay, if I see a guy batting 240 and he hits 30 home runs, like, okay, I see what he's doing there. That's not what's happening. Like Moore is hitting 380,
right? And
he's got 33 home runs. It doesn't make. I mean, Tibbs is the same guy who did not have a great night.
No,
like
4 strikeouts.
I know.
How about that?
Yeah, I didn't think and he's bad against lefties anyway, but
I mean, the guy had just about as many home runs as strikeouts this year. It's insane for him to come here and strike out.
He had
4
like
times.
33 strikeouts the whole year, I think, coming in, or 30 something like that. And then he's got the 28 homers, obviously. And he did barrel a couple balls that ended up going foul. So, like, it's not – but, 4 strikeouts and 6 at-bats is basically the exact opposite game that Christian Moore had.
How about the athleticism that you've seen the last 8-9 years where guys can go second to home, first to third? We're going to see a team tonight in Kentucky that can stress you in a multitude of ways with their athleticism. But even in the corner outfielders, you reference kind of what North Carolina does, patrolling the outfield. Like, these guys can flat out run now in the out. It's not just like sitting in a corner and see if we could mash 28 home runs, right? It's like you got to be able to pick it, defend it a little bit.
And maybe that's another minor weakness for Florida State is I don't think they're as strong on the outfield corner. Tibbs has become a solid right fielder. He throws well, but
he made me nervous on a couple of
those. And Ferrer is shady, clearly. I mean, like that's maybe a liability for Florida State. Whereas, some of these other really athletic teams that you mentioned, Virginia, they play great defense everywhere. But certainly they can track down in the outfield, and you got the best shortstop in the country, in Griffo Farrell. That's a huge advantage. You got guys you can really trust at those premium positions. Boy, that's a big advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty excited to watch. I told Ravi all week on the show, I just didn't want to ride with Carolina as my pick because that's my favorite team, and I didn't want to be blinded. But I said if I was going to take a little bit of a shot, it's not a long shot, kind of like Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think Kentucky's a team you have to play against a little bit.
Yeah.
To figure out how they play. And I love Minge. I love his dugout interviews. I think he keeps the guys loose. And they're a little bit of an afterthought, and people forget they had a really good run this year where they're tops in the country, and they were a 2 seed, right?
Tied for first with Tennessee in the SEC,
right?
I mean,
that's pretty good, right?
Number 2 national seed. I mean, you're right. Totally feels like they're lying in the weeds.
It does.
I'm so excited to see what they can do in this ballpark on this stage because I love their style of play. Yeah, they can still hit the ball out of the park. They have more power than they had last year.
They stay on the gas.
It's kitchen sink at you. I love that stuff, man. I'm very excited to watch that. And NC State, talk about lying in the weeds.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm an SEC honk. They're way better than people think. Like,
they're good,
and they're is gutty too generic of a term?
It fits though. It just fits. I mean, it's just your best players are these 5th-year senior grad transfers that they brought in at the corners, Pennington and Makarevich.
Old team.
You got a gritty little shortstop, Butterworth, who's just a joy to watch.
One of the great names in baseball.
Absolutely. And then Sam Highfield, speaking of grit, right? I mean, he's got pitched here in 2011 and pitched his
he
butt
gets
off.
a chance to come.
It's cool.
It's unbelievable.
It's cool.
Who do you like out of this second day? You've got obviously You got NC State, Kentucky. You got A&M and Florida. Like, how sustainable is this Florida thing? They hadn't won more than 3 games in a row since February until postseason play. Is this a thing where it's like, hey, it's midnight Cinderella, time to go home? Or, like, do you think they can manage to make a little noise here?
I mean, when you're Florida, you're not Cinderella.
I know,
it's
but
just, that's the thing. It's preseason number 2 team in the country for a reason. They're absurdly talented.
Right, yeah.
They underachieved. They had a lousy year. I don't think they deserved to get in, but they got in.
Right.
And once they did, we knew they were dangerous. Because
especially going to Stillwater, like they were going to hit 1 million home runs there.
But the fact that they shut down Oklahoma State's offense 2 games in a row out there, I think they held them to 2 runs, 42 games in a row.
Fitty, I apologized ahead of time. Remember the Monday after the pairings came out, after the seedings came out, and I said, listen, guys, I get it. I watch a ton of college baseball, and this isn't going to sound right, but I'm going to say 2 things, and I think they can both be true. I didn't believe that Florida should have been a 3. You could make the case whether they should have been, the schedule, the record, whatever. I didn't think they should be a 3. And I said, but here's the thing. In the same vein, I got to say, they're capable of being in Omaha, right? It's like, it's not going to sound right.
Right.
You're going to be like, DB, how can they not? You're saying they shouldn't be a 3, but they can win this thing? And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's how I felt, too. I don't think they had earned a spot in the field, but I think they're good enough to win the national championship. It's a contradiction. But like that, if anything, for me, it just underscores how dramatically they underachieved this season.
Right.
Because now we've seen what they're capable of doing. And they finished 1 game over 500.
I mean, do you trust like Liam and Coppola?
Do they got enough pitching?
No.
That's the question, right?
It's weird.
No. They're talented.
Coppola is better than his numbers. I mean, he was 0 in the season.
Yeah, it's and he's a guy
like 0.
Yeah. We've just been waiting for it. He's just never been able to stay healthy. He was a huge recruit. I mean, one of the top freshmen in the country heading into his freshman year, and it just never was able to stay healthy. But like big X factor. I mean, it's like Andrew Miller, Nick Lodolo kind of a look.
Deep cut.
It's that kind of a look, and certainly he's capable of beating anybody. But I like a little more track record on this stage.
Yeah. I don't love a 9 ERA coming in. Not my fave.
And pitched against
remember,
A&M,
he came into the regionals 0. How about their depth, right? I was joking the other day on the show. It's like you guys in watching the Montgomery injury, like it kind of hurt my heart a little bit. And I asked Kendall because I think he was on the A&M. He was either there or he was tweeting real time. And they cut to a commercial. And I'm like, shoot, did they put was there a cast on that? And then I checked his Twitter timeline, and just like a couple of minutes earlier, he's like, hey, full cast on. So but their ability to just kind of light switch that thing and come right back the very next inning, I'm thinking, well, this is a team that wasn't assuming Montgomery was going to play until August. Like they weren't sure.
No, that's right.
Right. So they had to have
options
and guys ready. And sure enough, man, that dinner bell rang and they ate.
This Caden Kent thing they plug in there. I mean, I saw him in the Cape Cod League last summer. I was like, this guy's going to be a good player. I was like, wow, I like this guy. And he just was kind of buried all year long. But you talk about their depth, when you need it, here he is. I mean, it's pretty cool.
So out of the teams just everybody here, who has the fewest question marks for you on the way to a national champ? Like who's got I don't want to say easiest path, but if you look at them, you're like, I see the fewest amount of holes here.
Honestly, I think North Carolina has the fewest amount of holes.
Yeah.
Tennessee feels like the best team.
You just don't love their arms, right? Not compared to
North Carolina or Tennessee.
So you're comparing Tennessee's arms to Carolina's arms versus Tennessee's ability to slug versus Carolina's ability to hang in there.
Right.
The discrepancy is greater between the arms for you?
I guess so. Yeah.
Is that too simple?
No, I think that's about right. Because North Carolina is also like a top 20 offense in the country. They're not as terrifying as Tennessee, but like it's a top 20 offense, and it's so balanced all the way through. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. You got power, you got speed, you play great defense. You got guys at the bottom who could turn it over, get it back to Honeycutt. I think North Carolina's offense is very good. They haven't been playing at peak capacity in the postseason. They've had to fight and get these walk-off late inning dramatics, whereas Tennessee and Florida State have been just beating the crap out of people. And so, that's maybe something to keep an eye on. You like teams that are really hot offensively, but UNC keeps winning because their pitching and defense is so good, and that bullpen especially, but also just the rotation. I mean, they got guys who throw strikes and can get you some length. They're not going to blow you away, DeCaro and Shea Sprague, but they can rely on
18-year-old.
Yeah, how about that?
Once he got through the first inning, I had one of my buddies that was out in the outfield, and I'm sending him a message. And I was like, I think the fact that they didn't plate more and he wasn't really finding the zone could actually help him because he'll come around. But just to be 18 and kind of find his sea legs, that was pretty impressive.
He's got a chance to be a top 5 pick in 3 years.
100%.
I mean, as he fills out, there's going to be more velocity to come. It's 4 real pitches with real metrics too.
That's Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball.
Should we let him go eat?
Yeah, let's let him go. I know he's going to get some tacos or something.
He's just getting ready to go back to work.
Maybe sneak a pregame margarita in there too. Aaron, we appreciate the time so much.
Best in the business.
And enjoy your time here in Omaha. DB and I will be back here in just a minute, but I got to remind you, in baseball, teams advance by using research, statistics, and intuition. At Weitz, we manage your money the same way. Learn more at weitz.investments/CWS. DB and I will be back with more in just a couple minutes.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, a special College World Series edition. Here with DB, I'm Ravi Lulla live.
I need Cam Bam to give me a little more juice in my earphones. It is getting very, very loud here at Thank you, Kate Bizzle.
Yeah, at Zipline, it's starting to get a little starting to get the
people can drink early, can't they?
Man,
that's incredible.
Here's the problem.
I mean, not that I wouldn't know, but
here's the problem with
nothing
drinking.
good happens. I was like, yeah, let me figure out the right time of day.
Here's the problem when you start drinking early is you have to keep drinking.
Yeah. Right? So you know the funny thing, I thought of you the other day with your whole Cam Rising love affair.
There's an
old guy down there with a Utah Utes hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
he's sitting on the corner at the corner of the bar with a Utah Utes hat. I'm like, what are the odds?
More of a Whittingham love affair than it is a Cam Rising love affair.
Yeah, I'm a big Whittingham guy too.
And
Team Kyle.
Yeah, dude, he's
not Tim Kyle. Team Kyle.
He's
Astros.
He'd
snap you off 12-6,
just like me.
Well, it's Mike Scott. You're like Mike Scott. How about that staff though? Goodness. All right. We rapidly digress.
That's all right.
Well, guess the show's back.
That's what we do. Even on a Saturday.
Yeah, Fitty kept us in line. It's
even on a Saturday, even from the College World Series, we're still DB and me and goofy as all hell. We are going to talk to Noah Fleischman from NC State here coming up in just a few minutes. And then later on at about 12:30, we're going to talk to Steve Sipple. Not that Nebraska's here, but Nebraska does have a pretty significant recruiting weekend going on right now. So I want to get in touch with Sip about that. There's a lot going on in the sports world, which is nice for June, right? You don't always have that luxury.
It is.
We got obviously College World Series here. The Mavs finally decided to win a game last night as they avoided the sweep.
Have the lines come out yet? Don't look
for Game 5
because I want to look. I want you to guess. What would you make the line?
Okay, so Boston, going back to Boston,
yes,
Game
sir.
5 to close out. I would go Celtics -6.5.
Okay, so it is Celtics -6.5.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it.
No, I know. I'm watching you. 6.5.
Yeah, that's
but that's the original line of how the series set in Game 1.
Yeah.
Is Vegas trying to get rolled, or is that like?
I think they're telling you how that game's going to go.
Well, they weren't really that. They were close, but they weren't really close in Boston.
In Game 1?
It's in general.
No, you're right.
They clearly look like the better team, and you rested Porky Zingus.
Hingus Pingus?
Hingus Pingus.
Yeah, I think you're probably giving Dallas a little bit of credit on the desperation front again.
Yeah.
Just that, hey, like they're going to leave whatever they have out there and just saying it's not going to be enough to get Boston. Because, I mean, Boston's better. Dallas isn't even the best team in the West. Like, let's be honest. They're not.
Tough crowd.
Well, they're not. I mean, they're good. Like, they have moments, right? But you're not telling. You take Denver over them, right?
I want every day that ends in one.
Like, you would take.
That might be about it, though.
Yeah,
I don't like Minnesota.
I don't either. I don't.
So give me another. Give me the two in the West. OKC.
I like OKC better than Dallas.
I probably.
They're early.
I probably wouldn't fight you over that.
I like OKC. They're a more coherent basketball team.
Yeah.
I kind of like how they're put together. And frankly,
do you not love Dallas's shot selection?
No, it's
incredible.
I don't love any of it. I'm not a fan. I don't like.
Hey, Cam Sip needs a StreamYard link too.
I don't love.
He's texting me. I love live radio.
I don't love Boston's shot selection either. They're just better.
Yeah.
Like I don't sit there and be like, oh man, Boston playing great basketball. I'm just like, oh, that team's better than Dallas. So we'll see Game 5 on that one with the NBA Finals. Not a ton to get into. This is all academic at this point, basically. I tried to talk myself into Dallas winning the series. Tried to talk DB into Dallas winning the series.
So are you to the point where you want to pick games? Like are you saying, can Dallas get this to game 6? Because that's what I thought last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, could they get this to 6?
I think no. I don't.
You just think gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, I mean,
Beantown closes it out.
It's so hard to sweep somebody in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
That game 4 is always
and Boston is notorious for an egg.
Yeah. And that game, I mean, just look historically, teams that go 3-0 in the finals, a lot of times they have a letdown in that game 4. It's just a kind of natural, you exhale for a second. The other team really doesn't want to go out that way, which is sort of a pet peeve of mine, by the way.
What?
The team, so it was worse last series with Minnesota and Dallas. Mm-hmm. And Cam, whenever Noah gets in here, just let us know. But last series with Dallas and Minnesota, and they go down 3-0, and Anthony Edwards is like, "Oh man, after they win game 4, they're like, oh, we're motivated. We're not gonna let that happen to us." I was like, you couldn't have been motivated games 1 through 3. That might have been more useful.
Yeah.
Because once you're down 3-0, that's a wrap. That's not happening in basketball. At least it never has. So I'm gonna assume it's not going to today. I don't know. It's just, I think it's all academic at this point in the NBA Finals, and
I hope you're wrong, because I want to see a little more good basketball. I don't know if good basketball is
any basketball.
I mean, I wasn't tickled with ESPN going right to the NBA last night after the CWS, but I do want to see basketball.
Yeah, well,
I did think they dropped the ball last night. This is an incredible day of baseball.
It really was.
And I don't know how you gave my guy. I did during the broadcast, I heard it on the television above me that they were going to give KP a couple minutes to open Sports Center.
Oh yeah,
they were being literal. He only got a couple minutes on Sports Center.
I hate that.
Why wouldn't you use your guys though? You're here.
Yeah, why spend the resources to get?
It was a fantastic day. But I'm a baseball honk, so I'm always going to ride with baseball.
Well,
I love the NBA too, but it just wasn't compelling. They won by 2,000.
It wasn't a good game. That's the thing. If you have a buzzer beater or something like that, or if it's a compelling series, maybe. But you're talking day 1 of a premier sports event, and as good of a day 1 as we've ever had.
Yeah.
Let's get to Noah Fleischman of the Wolfpacker. That's part of the On3 network. Let's see if NC State can help usher in a day 2 that's just as compelling. Noah, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Really, really good. You ready to go today? Are your guys ready to go?
Yeah, I think they will be. I think they're excited. They've been loose, the whole week that they've been here or so, the last few days, and they're excited to be back in Omaha for the first time in a couple of years.
So, Noah, as you have watched this team all season, obviously, you watch them get through the regionals and super regionals. If there is, I always go with the negative here. I'm a Debbie Downer at heart. If there's a thing that you're concerned about with NC State as they make their way in Omaha here, what's the thing that you're like, if something trips them up, it's going to be that?
Yeah, I think, it might come down to at the plate a little bit and getting the ball out of the yard. I mean, it's not a team that hits a ton of home runs, but it's a team that relies on a couple of games at least to bring some energy and get them going. And it's a big park. It's hard to hit it out. We'll see. I think there's only a few guys that really have a chance to be consistently hitting them out, and we'll see what happens. But if they can live on doubles, they've got a couple of guys that have 20 doubles each with Alex Makarovich and Garrett Pennington, both over 20 doubles this season. So if they can do that, I think they'll be okay. But otherwise, I'm not really worried about this team. They played a hard schedule. They have a top 5 strength of schedule in the country. Really, no team's going to bother them. And they're in a bracket with all SEC teams, but I don't really think that they're too worried about that right now.
How about just their personality? A diehard SEC or ACC guy, so I watched these guys a ton. I hate to use the word gritty because it's kind of a cliche, tough, this, that, and the other, but I don't know any better adjectives to describe how they play. You got the old school veterans on the corner, 5th-year guys. It's just a savvy, sound bunch.
It is, and it's a group of guys that, battled injury and illness basically the whole year. I mean, you look at it. They got swept at Georgia Tech and swept at Louisville. Well, at Louisville, they had 2 pitchers that were out with an illness, including one of them, Logan Whitaker, who will probably start game 3 if they get there this weekend, who lost 30 pounds during the month of April just by an illness. So they were able to get through that. They've lost, 2 pitchers to torn ACLs and an outfielder to a broken leg. They've kind of gotten stronger each time they've got a guy out. Lose a guy for the year, so we'll see what happens this weekend. But throughout the postseason, they played really, really good baseball, and people are calling them a hot team now, but they've been playing well since they went to Clemson. They took 2 or 3 from the Tigers, who were number 2 in the country at the time, and they're playing well since then. So I'd say 2 months they've been playing good baseball. Their first 2 months of the year were kind of up and down, but they found it now.
Noah, you mentioned some of the pitching injuries and everything like that. Last night we saw how important in that last game, how important bullpens can be here in Omaha. Do you like the bullpen depth of NC State to be able to manage what's going to be required here?
I do, and they were able to manage the bullpen really well at Georgia last week, and they were able to keep their top 3 arms until Monday when they could use them. They've got 4 guys that are really good in the bullpen, 3 of them being freshmen. Cooper Consiglio and Ryan Marone are 2 guys who are the longer relievers. They can give them 4 or 5 innings out of the bullpen. And Jacob Duden's a freshman who is lights out. It's 99 the fastball. If there's a 90-mile-an-hour slider, it's not a lot of guys that can hit that in the country. And then you got Derek Smith, the sophomore closer. He can basically strike out the side whenever he wants. So there's 4 guys out there that I think they're really comfortable with, and they'll probably turn to them today and try to get a win in game 1 pretty quick.
So if you're going to keep kind of the streak going, I know and I'm with you, right? Because I think it also made me think Clemson was a little vulnerable too, and how that series went to start where I thought about Clemson. So if we're going with the premise that they've been hot for longer than just the last 3 weeks, who in the lineup do you feel like has to kind of keep it going? I mean, are you going to start with Pennington? Are you looking at Cozart? Like what? Who needs to be the guy that they kind of have been as of late if they want to keep this thing going?
Yeah, I'd go with third baseman. Alec Makaredich. He's been, one of the best players on his team this year, transferred to East Carolina for his last year in college baseball. Leads the team in average, home runs, RBI, slugging percentage. He's hitting the ball really well, and he's a guy that's going to need to hit well. Sounds like Derek Pennington, another guy who's here for his only year, in Raleigh, and he's hitting the ball well too in the second spot. And then Cozart, everyone knows what he is behind the plate and defensively, but his bat kind of woke up a little bit toward the end of this postseason run. The first part of the regional didn't go well. He hit 3 homers last weekend at Georgia. It's obviously a hitter-friendly park, but I think that may have helped him coming into this weekend and seeing the ball go and seeing some success in the play.
One of the reasons I ask about Cozart too is because of the way that Kentucky plays. Like in the scouting report, if you don't watch them, they're a little unorthodox isn't the word, but they are active, right? I mean, everything is in play and offense. Coach Minge has those guys. This constant movement, man. How critical for you do you think how Cozart handles what's happening behind the dish?
It's really critical. I mean, he's a guy that you want back there. I mean, he leads the ACC in runners thrown out this year with 13. So it's going to be interesting if Kentucky tries to run. He's a guy that can easily get the ball to second. But he's also a smart catcher where everything stays in front. Nothing gets behind him. And he's good at keeping pitchers calm, too. So I think he's a big X factor, especially in today's game, of keeping the defense intact and being able to throw guys out at second. And Kentucky might learn the hard way one or two times, and maybe they'll bring some leads in a little bit and let NC State kind of be able to dictate the game. But that'll be a big part of it.
We're talking with Noah Fleischman. He's an NC State beat writer for the Wolfpacker, part of the On3 Sports Network. As I'm sure you're well aware, you've obviously got the even split between SEC and ACC teams here in Omaha. That kind of conference rivalry, if you will, has been a big topic nationally. How do you think, having seen the ACC up close and personal extensively, how do you think the ACC stacks up with this league in the SEC that tends to get all of the credit as being the baseball league in the country?
Yeah, I think they can compete. We've seen it throughout the postseason. Just from NC State perspective, they've won 2 games. Or they beat Georgia, twice this past week, and then they beat South Carolina in the regional as well to get to this point. So they've obviously played some SEC teams and done well. But overall, the leagues, are obviously the 2 best leagues in the country by far. The third place league is pretty far behind these 2. And Elliot Avent, the coach at NC State, he doesn't like to get into the whole who's better. He said he's got a lot of respect for SEC baseball, but everyone knows those are the 2 best leagues in the country. And I think they're very even. Obviously, the SEC, it gets the credit it gets, but they had 11 teams in the ACC at 8. But of the 8 teams of the ACC, 4 of them are standing. So 50%, I think they'll take that going into Omaha this week.
What are the odds it's come up at all, knowing Coach A, that last time, the COVID year, it got NC State, it was kind of a bad taste? Do you think that's something? Can you draw on a negative, or do you stay in the here and now?
They're staying in the here and now. They obviously know it's 2021 what happened, but there's not many guys left on the team from that. Obviously, Sam Heinfeld, who's going to start today, most likely pitched really well in that World Series. You know, he went 1-1-0 game against Jack Leiter. Honestly pitched, his tail off, maybe his best outing of his career. Then he played first in that Pac-13 game, went 3 for 4 off Kumar Rocker. So he obviously has a lot of confidence going into today's game. But, yeah, not too many guys have played here. So I don't think they're really too focused about it. They're kind of more focused on the 2024 Wolfpack and what they can do and try to get to the National Championship Series and win their first title.
No, we appreciate your time and enjoy your stay here in Omaha.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
That's Noah Fleischman from the Wolfpacker, part of the On3 Sports Network. That's an interesting question you ask, and I
you like that?
Yes, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is the value of acknowledging kind of the elephant in the room, right? Whether it's NC State,
that's totally in your style too, because you're kind of that mental.
Yeah, like because or like Jason Tatum before the finals, right? We were just talking about Boston and Dallas. He talked about the added pressure of the finals, and a lot of people wouldn't say that out loud. They wouldn't, like, it's obvious, right? But a lot of people don't say the obvious thing out loud. Or, Tony Vitello for Tennessee kind of reframing success in the sense of people have been disappointed with the way Tennessee's finished their season, despite the fact they're in their College World Series for the third time in 4 years. And he acknowledges it's like, yeah, I get people on the outside are disappointed. And I keep coming back to this thing of what is the value, or is there value, of sitting there and being like, hey, this is the thing that's out there, whether it's an internal narrative, an external narrative, whether it's Florida State being like, hey, we've never won here before.
Does it matter if it's a positive or a negative?
It might. I'm open to that discussion. Most of them are negatives, to be fair.
Yeah, so
usually the elephant in the room is
I can think of a couple of times we've had this conversation.
Okay.
Turnovers.
Yeah.
And winning close games.
For Nebraska, yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, do we talk about that or do we not? Do we talk about ball security?
We do. My question is for the people in it.
Because I'll tell you who addresses the elephant in the room.
Matt Rule does.
Matt Rule.
What did he say before the spring game?
He 100% addresses the elephant in the room.
What did he say before the spring game?
Stop checking the rearview mirror. Believe in yourself. Stay in the moment.
Nebraska fans should be happy if we don't put the ball on the carpet. Yeah. Is that not acknowledging the elephant
those
in the room?
one-loss scores, that's not on me. Right? Like, now, it turns out we had a few last year. So, but I think he can shake it. But he wasn't afraid to talk about it. That's for sure.
Let's hold on to that thought. I want to come back to it because I think in baseball it's a big deal too. We've got a long history, not just here at the College World Series, but in Major League Baseball as well. This long history of, whether it's curses or droughts or whatever. And do you talk about it? Do you not talk about it? What is it like internally when you're dealing with things that everybody else is talking about? That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will come back for one more hour here at Zipline on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We are back for hour number 2 of our CWS special here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We're live at Zipline Brewing. They've been very hospitable. They've got us up in this nice little perch where we can see the stadium.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's like we're around the people, but we're not like in the people, which I think is kind of the ideal situation. You know, keeps us a little
Cool little spot right next to the slowdown. You can get some. They got like a hot dog special here too, which is a fantastic way if you're a good business owner like the folks at Zipline are. Hot dogs are one of those things you can serve in bulk and understand your what's the word? Inventory.
Yeah.
And then they just vary it within the, like, you can get a classic, you can get an old fashioned way, you can get a Zipline way.
Not to get too business dorky on you here, but hot dogs have terrific margins.
Yeah.
Like in terms of selling them, terrific margins.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool.
One of the best.
I was talking with our Utah fan down there.
Yeah, I saw you talking to our Utes guy. You know, you give him a little Kyle Whittingham love.
I did. I said, I got a partner who has an affinity for Cam Rising.
So honestly,
he said, that's weird being in Omaha. I said, I
just like good football.
I mean, maybe he did or didn't sound like that. No, it's pretty close though.
I just like good football.
I mean, but bless his heart. He is extremely slight.
Yeah.
I mean, can you tell from down here?
Yeah, it looked like it.
Yeah, he's about the width of my forearm. And so when I rubbed his back, I was like, ooh.
You get the vertebrae in there?
Is kind of creepy, but I was like, good on you, because he is down there pounding some drinks, ready for some baseball.
Well, listen, you got to get ready. You got.
I think I felt his. I think I felt the 4 and the 5.
The L4.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
my man is drinking his lunch.
Hey, listen, you got to get those calories in one way or another.
Yeah.
Wanted to return to something we were talking about right before our break there. And coming up in a little bit, we're going to talk to Steve Sipple about some Husker recruiting on a big visit weekend for Nebraska. But we were talking about the value of acknowledging the elephant in the room, whether it's NC State and the COVID thing from a few years ago, which was, I don't know if people, that was a huge deal.
Oh,
they were playing.
It stole the show for like 3 days.
Yeah, they were playing as well as anybody in the tournament, and they got sent home.
And so I'm in the broadcast booth getting ready for the broadcast, and I thought it was gamesmanship that nobody was releasing the starting lineups.
Yeah, because there was a delay of
and
the
I'm looking at
game.
Bish, and we're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't good. But we didn't know, and it's a good thing that Glenn Sisk is so such a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Because I think he had an inkling of what's going on, and he wouldn't let us know. He just kept giving us the pushback.
Yeah,
times.
like, hey, it's going to be 30 more minutes.
Yeah, and I was like, Glenn, do you know anything? And he's like, DB, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I've liked him from the jump. He's been my spotter for years, and that's just when we got the sense that something bad was going to happen.
Yeah, we love Glenn. Glenn's the best.
I think he's spectacular.
He's always,
and I always kind of like those people that maybe come across as
a little gruff sometimes
or socially awkward to other people.
He's a good dude.
He's amazing
and like actually super friendly,
dude.
I'm a big Glenn guy.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, the SID department over there at Creighton. Like,
well, you know how I feel about Rob.
Yeah, they've got some good ones over there. We always appreciate them.
Low key, really funny.
Oh, Rob's great. Like I used to.
He's his best in other sports.
Yeah. Well, I watched the Crawford Spence fight with him and DeMarinis.
Oh.
And I've watched a couple Crawford fights with him, oddly enough, where I'll go out. I think usually DeMarinis invites him to whatever we're doing, and he is.
Yeah, he's sensational.
I used to think he did not like me.
You think everybody doesn't like you?
Well, it's insecurity. I don't know what to say.
Don't let me act like I don't know what that's like. I'm the same way.
I don't know what else to tell you. But also, like,
you don't remember me whining about Cam when he cussed me out a couple months ago?
Cam, be nice to me.
So Cam, full disclosure, I told Shane when he came back, I was like, it's like, damn, man, I didn't know Cam had that in him. And
somehow I knew you were going to bring that up.
And Shane goes, oh, yeah.
What did I say?
I said, oh, he bunked you too, huh?
Every producer I've ever met has that in them.
Yeah, I And we're going on double-digit years.
Yeah, you knew him back at the old place.
And my man snapped. I was like, whoa.
Every producer I've ever met has that in them. So
Well,
I just know.
It's so hard. It's such a hard job.
I think the only one that I never saw like get to a place where I was like, oh, I better tread careful here was George Norwood.
Yeah. Oh, the consummate gentleman.
He was just
Mr. WNBA.
so good-natured.
I remember I went hard on George for probably 20 minutes for playing NBA Live or NBA 2K, but doing the WNBA season.
Yep.
Dynasty.
Yep.
He chose the WNBA dynasty, and I was like,
he was an early adopter.
Man,
of the
I
WNBA.
went super hard, and he was unflappable.
No, he's a great dude. George was terrific. We love George.
It's called Norwood.
Always up to no good.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about elephants in the room, right? NC State. Florida State's got a huge one, right?
Yeah.
Been here the most times of any team, never to win it. You've got Tony Vitello, has amazing baseball teams all the time, and everybody's like, oh, they're not good enough, right? Like,
can I show you this without you being upset?
No, I saw it. I've seen it.
So real time, I'm just showing him the line drawn for
the third out of the game that would have gotten Florida State the win.
And I guess, the tracking didn't have the pitch as a strike. That was debatable. I thought real time it could have been a strike.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, TrackMan didn't have it. TrackMan didn't have it as a strike. It's okay. But that was a swing.
100%. I was sitting on the.
Will they dress that elephant in the room?
Maybe.
Because he was pretty okay. Relatively speaking, how would you have been in the press conference?
I'm not a guy that likes to complain about calls or whatever in the press conference. Like if I'm in that position,
you'll do it all. What do you say to your team?
So here's what
are you addressing it?
Yes, I think you have to. Right?
So you're not saying anything about holding on to balls at plays at the plate.
I'm saying that too.
Okay.
That's the important part, right?
Okay.
Is because the players are thinking about it. They're thinking about it, right? At least some of them. And so to not acknowledge it, I think is doing yourself a disservice.
Like T.O. saying, I don't want to hear one word about the officials.
Yeah.
In 93.
Yeah.
Fumble, not fumble. Like, he pointed out quickly all the things we did, kicking a ball out of bounds.
But however you address it, he brought it up.
Yeah, he did.
Right?
He did.
He may not be like, hey, we got screwed here, but we got to do something else.
He brought it up.
But you bring it up, right? So I would have been like, yeah, we had an opportunity to win that game. We probably should have won it on that pitch right there, right? Everybody's on the same page. We saw it. We saw the replay. We saw the screenshot. We know in our hearts of hearts that game should have ended right there.
Yeah.
Guess what? We still had other opportunities to win the game. We still made, not just in the ninth inning, right? We still made mistakes that go, and whether it's missing third base on a play that you should have scored on.
So real time, you didn't see that either?
I didn't see him miss the base.
I did see him check back over his shoulder, but the mics did pick it up.
So what I thought real time, because I'm sitting first base line, and so I'm just watching. I'm not watching on TV or anything.
How come you don't come inside?
Well, with Florida State, I wanted to root. So.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm a hawk.
No.
It's very professional up there.
Well, there's a reason. Oh, yeah.
So I didn't want to infringe. I
talked to one guy the whole time during the North Carolina game, and he's at the game. I ain't talked to anybody inside.
Yeah,
he's out as a fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's kind of he's like my Carolina guy.
Yeah.
I got to show you this picture you got with Roy Williams. And I knew he was right below, but he got some great pictures.
Is old Roy out here this week?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So I wanted to do the same thing with Ackley.
Yeah. You're a big Dustin Ackley guy.
I'm a big Dustin Ackley guy. Yeah. Here he is with old Roy.
Oh, there we go. Roy looks like he's having a good time.
Dude, how about his Carolina hat though? That's the one that I got Caleb when I was trying to convert him when he was little, and he wanted the Indiana one because they were here too.
That's a great hat, but I like. So this is that's like the.
You're looking at Roy Williams.
That's
now.
That's the Bobby Bowden hat.
Yeah.
So I went to a place. I was walking through Baseball Village yesterday. I went to a place that they were selling the Florida State Bobby Bowden hat, and I was like, I'm never gonna wear that. but I also kind of want it.
Yeah. Shout out to my guy Josh. He's like my lone. Well, I got a couple, but he's probably the most consistent Carolinian. Like where he's riding with me.
I'll mess around with Carolina basketball. I like Carolina basketball.
We were like comparing uniforms and why I'm superstitious, and even though I'm not superstitious, even though I am.
Oh, you definitely are. You just
I told him, I'm like, these are the ones, those are the uniforms that I hope they never wear.
I kind of like those.
No, they need to address that elephant in the room.
They don't play well with those?
Don't wear the powder blue, all blue
with the pinstripes.
With the pinstripe.
I like those. Those are sharp looking unis.
Cut it out. Cut it out.
Looking unis. What do you don't like about them?
I want to win.
You gotta look good. That's a good start.
I want to win, man.
So yeah, I wonder if I wonder, because I know some coaches don't address it.
Yeah.
Right? They're just like, we're not talking about that, whatever. Maybe they address it internally and we don't know. But I wonder how much more harm it does than good to pretend just to move past something without talking about it. Like, I'm probably an overly transparent person. I'm probably more of like, hey, just get it out there.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way.
Where it's like, let's just talk about it, right? Because if we don't, I'd rather err on the side of like, we didn't need to talk about it.
Do you need resolution?
I mean, in cases like this, I don't think there really is resolution.
Okay.
You just have to acknowledge like, hey, yes.
I'm just wondering if you're a guy that can go to sleep with something on your mind. Most men can.
Yeah.
Stereotypically, most women cannot. They prefer resolution.
So, I mean, to be fair, I
mean, most men can sleep standing up.
Always have something on my mind. So if I didn't, like, I wouldn't be able to sleep much at all. But
so I always wondered, right, whether it's Anthony Grant or whomever's carrying the ball in the backfield. It's like, how many times can you bring up turnovers or ball security?
Like, there's a point
get a
of
press conference and say,
returns.
Hey, listen,
too, right?
man, you got to take care of the ball or you can't play.
Yeah. And I guess maybe that is the question. Is there a point of diminishing returns?
There is. I just don't know what it is.
Well, and is there a point where it's like, hey, Anthony Grant just needs, whether it's Anthony, whoever, right?
Jeff Sims or
it's like Jeff Sims just needs to deal with that. Like
Heinrich Harburg, stop turning the ball over in the red zone.
Yeah, right. Like, is it a thing where it's maybe you don't need to hear it anymore, but until you fix it, you're going to continue to hear about it.
Yeah, one of the greatest things that I saw, I always try to give these examples of like the moments where I kind of, in falling in love is like way too strong of a word because I feel about love, but where I really started to think we had a really good guy in Coach Rule. Mm-hmm. This is after the pressers. This is real time in practice. And, they turned the ball over in the red zone in fall camp. And he's at about the 45-yard lines. And my man sprints down to about the 10 after a turnover. There was a sprint out and kind of threw the ball across his body and it was picked in the end zone. And he said, how many times do I have to, and then some other things were said, stop turning the ball over in the red zone? And he wanted an answer. Mm-hmm. Like, don't just put your head down and going back to the huddle.
You tell me how many times
Tell me how many times I've told you.
Yeah.
Because do you know what that does to people?
What?
When you have to say something out loud. You ever corrected anybody and said, you know what you did. What'd you do?
Yeah.
No, you know.
Yeah.
No, you know. But we just don't want to say it out loud, right?
Well, and we don't. What normally happens is if you're the person asking the question, is you don't want, because you can almost feel the secondhand embarrassment. Mm-hmm. You don't want to feel what you're making them feel.
But have you ever brought anybody in for a talk or whatever, and it's like, hey, what do we talk about? Hey, don't turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you go to the media and you're complaining about officiating, like, did I not just tell you that we're not going to complain about? The only one that got the green light to complain about how that game was officiated in '93 was Trev.
Yeah.
And clearly it was because he was leaving. He was going to be a top whatever pick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we had specific instructions.
Like
marching
orders.
Stay above the fray. There were things that we could have done. We still could have made the kick. We got the time, we were the beneficiaries of the timeout. We got the time put back on the clock. Like, don't cry. Like, this is a tough sport. Mm-hmm. Like, hang in there. But we still had to talk about it.
I'll say, but you can say all that, and all that can be true, and the official still had an outcome.
It's still a check swing.
Yeah, and he still swung.
Yeah.
Like, all that can be true, right? Like, all that can be true. It's like, yeah, should have scored on that play on third. Should have.
I wonder if Avent would say, hey, last time, they did us bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. He does rev high.
Yeah.
Coach Avon, North Carolina, he's a great interview for all intents and purposes. Like, I'm not going to pretend like, we go and break bread or grab a, dear old Nebraska U, but he does appear to rev high.
Yeah.
But you'll watch his team plays like that. But they're going to run into a buzzsaw today. Like, Kentucky's having none of it. And Minge, Coach Minge and those guys,
I always wonder about
it's a loosey-goosey bunch.
I always wonder about baseball guys that rev high.
They all do.
Well, not all managers do.
Fudge. They do it in their own
way, maybe.
Yeah, because I just don't know any more regimented coaches than baseball.
So, okay, they are very rigid. I don't know how many of them actually because revving high in baseball is really dumb.
Did you see at what point? Did you watch Coach Vitello in the dugout?
Yeah.
He almost never made eye contact.
Yeah.
He's constantly looking down, and now he revs high.
He does.
Link Jarrett, is kind of an awkward interview.
Yeah, a little bit. But he doesn't strike me as a guy that revs that high. He's a little awkward.
No, but his team is like if Tibbs, when we had him on, is a microcosm,
like a reflection of him,
then they're probably pretty laid back.
Which I think
Tibbs is he came across as a bigger pick,
yes, as he's got
baby,
good perspective,
like bigger picture.
That's
a song. Sorry.
In baseball, no, I thought you were calling Tibbs a little baby. No, I'm just kidding. In baseball, I just feel like we talk about this on the show all the time. There's too much failure to allow yourself to rev that high.
I'm 100% in agreement with you.
That's why I don't like it when basketball coaches rev that high.
I agree.
Right? Because I didn't like it when Bo revved that high.
Just imagine only 10 seconds between a missed free throw and how much you don't want a guy standing on the line thinking. Imagine kicking a ball at short or airmailing a ball to first base or, a swing and a miss. Or how about can too early with a couple of bad calls in the strike zone?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you get back in the box, man. I know that call didn't fit your eye, but that's why I love baseball.
Yeah,
I do, because it's what I always want to do with people. Like if it comes down to me and you may be better than me in some other areas, I just don't know if you're going to beat my mind. Like I'm willing to roll the dice in competitive who can hang in there the longest.
And that's why I think the manager's temperament is so important. That's why because that reflects on the team.
Maybe that's Tennessee's problem, but they are uber talented.
Vitello
does rev high.
He does rev high, and I wonder, because we used to talk about this with Bo all the time. You wonder, it's like, okay, if he's that high strung, if he's that tightly wound, how are his players not also
they're
be
the
that
same way?
Wound,
look at his
right?
best players.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the clapback from let's take one that I like. Kenny Bell.
Yeah,
Kenny Bell has Bo's personality.
Yeah,
Nate Gary has Bo's personality.
100%.
Josh Mitchell has Nate Gary or Bo's personality.
Yeah.
So
listen,
I get it. I get it.
Those guys all ride with Bo, right?
Oh yeah.
This is not an indictment.
Highly competitive. Don't be disrespectful because I'm not.
Us versus the world.
I'm not turning the other cheek. I mean, you watch KB on Twitter?
Yeah. No, he stands on business. he's not taking anything from anybody, right?
Yeah.
There's that us versus the world mentality.
Will Compton.
Great example. Mm-hmm. Right up that alley. But what are some of the things that plagued those teams throughout the year?
Leveling out, just staying in the moment.
Staying in the moment, being able to bounce back from something bad.
Even though a guy has 220 on the ground, don't let him go 405.
Yes.
All right, he's got his 220.
Yeah. Letting things snowball on.
Yeah,
you.
let's.
Okay, we had one turnover. Let's not let it turn into
thrown three in a row. Let's chill against Iowa.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
get it. I'm with you.
That to me, and in baseball, it's even worse. Because
that's why I felt so bad in the Super with Oregon when Moore was on the mound against Kentucky.
Yeah, man, I felt that way.
Not Kentucky, Texas A&M.
I felt that way when I was watching
Moore pitches for Kentucky.
Yes, I felt that way when I was watching Oxford last night, and he walks that first batter. That's why I brought up the moment to Aaron Fitt, because in that, as I'm watching that, And I'm kind of looking at him, and like I'm pretty close, so I can kind of see his demeanor and his.
So was it like the third or the fourth time he walked off the mound to wipe his hand down?
It was like the second. I was like, that's not normal.
I didn't know if that was part of his routine.
The one
or
I
he
gave
just
him,
wasn't comfortable.
He didn't look comfortable.
Yeah.
And then the way he was throwing the ball, the way where the ball was going, if you're looking at where the catcher set up, where the ball ended up, you're like, oh, this is either just a really bad day. The moment's kind of a lot for him right now. I didn't know what it was, but I looked at that guy and I go, that dude is not like this is gonna go badly. And I felt for him because if you've ever done anything competitive, you've had that moment where you're like, I don't know if everybody has the self-awareness or if I'm a weirdo because I wasn't really a good athlete. And I'm just like, I'm probably not up for this today, but I have to keep going anyway.
It's funny you say that because I remember UCLA, we were at the Rose Bowl, and I had made my third or fourth mistake in 3 series, right? Got pulled infamously. And I remember thinking, so 50-year-old DB or 45-year-old DB or 40-year-old DB is much different than 22, right?
Yeah.
Because at 22, I was like, oh, man, like, just give me another shot at it. I just want this, and this. And I was so mad at myself for screwing it up. Like I was in control. Why did I have to be so big-headed after the Texas Tech game? Why couldn't I just dial in during practice? Why couldn't I focus in? So I was like kicking myself. At 50, I want to be in control of every variable. If there's a screw up, I want it to be me. Because the great thing about it is, if I can will myself and
you can take ownership over it,
and I can fix it.
Yes,
I don't want to give it to anybody else.
Nope. I would rather have something in my hands that I can fix.
And I don't know when that happened, but something changes when you go from the blame game and like, man, I can't believe I did to, okay, I did it, so I get a chance to fix it.
But here's why not everybody likes to operate that way. Because sometimes you're not going to be able to fix it, and not everybody can live with that.
Give me the chance.
I know, but not everybody.
Right?
What do we talk about all the time?
Give me a shot at it.
There is value in the effort, but you have to be able to live with the results.
Yeah, and I'm I want the opportunity to fail.
But not everybody.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I want the opportunity.
It's the privilege of pressure. It's the privilege of expectations. It's the, but.
Yeah, but there is zero. I went through that Eeyore stage.
But here's the cap. And listen, not everybody gets it.
Oh, is me.
Yeah, it's like, bother.
Nope.
But here's the problem.
I ain't doing it.
Not everybody is willing to live with the results.
Man, especially if they're my own.
Right. But that's
Kobe whooped me 10-0 in a game of horse or a game of one-on-one. I still want to play him.
Yeah. But that's the key. And that's why not everybody operates that way, because not everybody can live with the results.
So I think, you know what's funny when you say, I think that's why I gravitate towards Harburg. Why I like him as a person.
Because he's willing to put it out there and just live with what happens.
And he just keeps coming.
I'm like, and
now all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, you didn't win the job, but gosh, you sure did look good in spring. Oh, may bring in another NAIA quarterback. Okay, so what else can you do? And he's just like, man, you guys are hilarious. Like, I'm going to keep doing me because that's what I can control.
Low key.
So I appreciate that.
I don't particularly want him playing meaningful snaps, but I love Heinrich Harburg. I do. At quarterback. Quarterback. Like if he wants to play meaningful snap somewhere else.
Hey, Ravi, I love how you're good with your nephew, man, but
you can't ever watch my kids, though.
Totally fair. You ask me to watch your dogs? That's right up my alley. You ask me to watch your kids? That's probably not the guy for that.
It's a great gift you gave your nephew, man. I know Raj was pumped.
You ain't getting nowhere near Zoe.
You got to know. Listen, you just get Natasha for that. Natasha and Zoe are thick as thieves. That's like, I love his mindset.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
And you need guys.
You do.
Like that.
You do.
That it doesn't matter if they play or not.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't want to play. Not that it doesn't matter to him if he plays or not, but that his demeanor does not change based on whether he's playing or not.
I want you to ask our next guest about the elephant in the room, because the head coach that he covers, certainly addresses it.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to the one, the only Stephen M. Sipple from Husker Online. We'll get into a big Nebraska recruiting weekend. And then, we may wrap up the show with some predictions for today.
Sure to go
Maybe.
right.
Well,
Can you believe I almost went 2 for 2 in resounding fashion?
Yeah.
I had FSU all the way.
I would have preferred had that gone your way because that means it goes
I
my
almost
way
look like
too.
a genius. Wouldn't that have been
Borderline, got to be careful there.
That's too good to be true.
We'll be right back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio live from the College World Series at Zipline Brewing here. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN. Nope, not on ESPN Omaha today. That's the rest of the week. You can hear TB and me on ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, every weekday from 7 to 10 a.m. And occasionally we even talk to one Stephen M. Sipple. What should the M stand for today? Modesto?
No. Let's go Modesto. What?
I don't know.
Modesto?
Like California? I don't know. Mauricio?
No. Maleficent.
like the Sleeping Beauty movie?
Yeah, Maleficent.
He does have a lot in common with Angelina Jolie, I think. We're efforting Sip here.
I think he's just getting in.
Yeah, getting into the stream here. But a big weekend for Nebraska with some visitors in town. A lot of the big fellas in town this weekend, and some guys that are high priorities for Nebraska. Hopefully they can keep a little bit of that June momentum going and pretty much have – I'd like to see him have, 80% of his class locked up by the end of the month.
Well, so what are they at, 13?
I believe so. I think that's right.
Might be about right. 80% by the end of June would probably get them to 16 or 17.
I was going to say 5 more.
Okay.
So that's what, 18? That gets you pretty close to where you want to be. I mean, I think you'd like to have most of that done by the time you get into fall camp. But let's talk to our guy, Steve Sipple, who's joining us now. Sip, how are you this morning?
Can you hear me okay?
Afternoon, I guess. Yeah.
Sip, you're the best.
Yeah.
So we're going today we're going with Maleficent. Stephen Maleficent Sipple.
That's really complex.
Do you know what Maleficent means?
No, I don't.
It means destructive, harmful, particularly if supernatural. Maleficent. Stephen Maleficent Sipple.
I kind of like that.
Me too, because I know you come across as like kind of all shucksy, but man, when you get mad, like you're not afraid to pretend step on somebody's throat. So I'm going with Maleficent today.
I think that's okay. I mean,
you threatened me at least 30 times in our tenure together, so it's like
you grew out of my weight class. I mean, you kept lifting weights. I mean, you're too big for me now.
Well, see, now I'm going back the other way. You said if I ever got to 200, you'd give it a shot, and I'm going to get super close.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I'm 170, so I always say we got to meet in the middle. You got to get to 185, okay?
All right, you be Alvarez, and I'll be Crawford.
Hey, you guys gonna watch Gervonta tonight?
Yeah, I can't stand him. I hope he gets his block knocked off, but I just don't know if Martin hits hard enough to push him.
Oh man, we got problems now. What'd you Maleficent? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Maleficent.
Yeah. Well, we got problems. You saying that?
Are you a Tank Davis guy?
Yeah, Alex, my grandson loves him. Favorite athlete.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like Tank. I mean, Tank dropped. Who's that joker? He dropped with a left to the body to the kidney.
Oh, Raleigh Ramirez.
No. The kid who just won, Ryan Garcia.
Oh yeah.
He dropped Garcia.
Well, that's fine. He put the no rehydration clause, and maybe because he felt like Garcia was going to be on that stuff, but Garcia was starched for that fight.
Yeah, well, and then he got starched because nobody hits harder than Tank. I mean, nobody.
He has been an absolute nightmare on with these press conferences this week. I can't stand him.
I mean, he's rough, but he's a great fighter. Great fighter. I mean, he would have been good in any era.
Yeah, well, once he fell out of favor with my guy Terrence, and I'm out on Tank.
I understand the Omaha connection.
Yeah,
I kind of divorced myself from that discussion a little bit.
When you stopped putting your Omaha face on, it was no more fun, man. You used to put your Omaha face on all the time.
Well, I respect Bud completely, but and they can't, Gervonta's too small to fight Bud. But when you're talking about best pound for pound, it's tough. It's a tough conversation. It's one of those guys. And I guess we'll see a little bit tonight. But I think Tank will stop him.
Come on. I just hope that Frank has a little bit of in him of those sparring sessions, because Tank just doesn't seem to respect the game enough, man. Maybe that's just me because I'm old school.
What do you mean?
He talks too much.
Everybody talks too much.
Yeah. Not my guy Crawford.
No, Bud doesn't. You're right.
Not Bernard Hopkins. Not Evander Holyfield.
I suppose, yeah.
Sip, huge weekend, man. Like, are you writing today?
Yeah, I am. I'm at my computer right now. I was going to write some EJ Barthel stuff that I got from Belton, Texas that applies now to camps. And what I'm writing is, it's interesting. You guys, we do this too. We always move so quickly and we judge so quickly. But Barthel said something that in Belton that kind of it slowed me up a little bit. In that he said, "Look, we're still establishing ourselves as a staff. I mean, we're just really going into year 2 of laying our groundwork as a recruiting staff. I mean, we always do that, though. We really judge. We judge quick. How are they, Sip? What do you think? Well, I got to remind myself, this is going into year 2. It's really early. And they're still trying to, I shouldn't say still, but they're trying to establish their identity. I think they're doing a great job. I really do think they're doing a great job. I don't say it. I don't just sign off on things anymore as it applies to Nebraska football. I do. I think they're doing a great job, but it's early and it's not time to fully judge this staff as recruiters at all.
Sip, do you think that matters more now where it seems like the timeline for recruiting has been pushed earlier and earlier with kids where, we're seeing offers go out in freshman and sophomore classes where it's not something we used to see a ton anymore. Like it only being in year 2 seems like it matters now more than it ever has in terms of not having a chance to have laid that groundwork yet with a lot of those guys.
Oh, it does. I mean, you can't. Time slows down for nobody, including this staff. So they got to get after it quick. And some of that is offering. Well, they're offering 2028 quarterbacks, essentially 8th graders. That's what you do. But again, what I'm talking about, Ravi, mainly is you just can't, as an outside entity, as media, at fans, we have to remind ourselves that this staff is still pretty new at Nebraska. What they're doing is still in some ways feeling their way along in some ways. You can't, they won't say it that way. And when I say they can't say it that way, I can though. They are. They're still, like, for instance, establishing themselves in Chicago, that they won't say stuff like that publicly, but it's true. And so there's challenges, but they're doing a great job. And they really shine during this time of year. Nebraska does. This staff does, because they fully embrace these camps and what they can do for Nebraska, what they can do for their roster.
I think it's pretty cool, kind of your evolution with recruiting, because I think just it's safe to say even like 2 years ago, you weren't as locked in or maybe appreciative of the efforts.
No, I would kind of, it would gloss over it a little bit.
Did you ever think there'd be a stretch where in back-to-back, because this is a big weekend, right? This is a lot of their hog mollies, the D-line.
Yeah.
So Christian Jones is in this deal, and he's obviously important to me. But, this is preceding next week, which is going to be monster as well. Did you ever think, just go back 2 years ago, right? Nebraska's 2 recruiting weekends for hosts in June would be potentially as pivotal as these 2.
Oh, not really.
Hard, isn't it? It's almost like we had to fast forward.
Right. It's June. June's just such an interesting animal now. I think some people just are still adjusting. Well, let's face it. A lot of fans just they wouldn't know. They wouldn't fully understand how important June has gotten and how important these 2 weekends can be to the program, because it's still relatively new, the phenomenon of June and how the calendar's has sped up so much, the recruiting calendar, how much it's sped up, and it doesn't all come down to February anymore. It really comes down to June and July in a lot of cases. So yeah, I appreciate it. And I do appreciate what you said too. This is a big weekend. I saw those kids coming out of the hotel in Lincoln on Friday morning, where, they put those kids in a downtown Lincoln hotel, and man, they come out of there and it's like, what, how did they get that big, at age 17? And that's where it's got to see, I'm always of that mind that it's got to start there, the up front. That's where it's got to get, that's where you really got to thrive in recruiting, getting bigs. And they do. And that's, Matt Rule has said that really from the time he took the job.
Matt Rule, our head coach, Matt Rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt Rule.
That guy.
Sip, you mentioned this is obviously a big weekend for the big fellas. Is there anybody in particular? I don't know how deep in the weeds you want to get on this particular visit weekend, but are there any guys in particular that you see coming in and are looking at? You're like, hey, that's a guy that particularly excites me. I know it's not sexy like the quarterbacks and the running backs and the 5-star athletes like Michael Terry or whoever, but is there anybody of the big guys they're recruiting and having on campus that you get particularly excited about?
Well, when you got a 4-star or even a 5-star by ESPN, the kid from Bishop Gorman, SJ, it's hard to say his last name, Alafatuli. That's a big one. Those are huge to me. Those are the kind of guys, I go back to guys like, you guys can do this because you're old enough. I go back to Dominic Raiola and Finodi, and how important those guys were to the program. And then when they were gone, you could tell they were gone. It was
like they got a chance.
You know what I mean?
Bishop Gorman, right? Like that's big. You just had Utu in midweek. Like you've already got Ruggiero in, who you kind of.
I don't know how they got him to walk.
I don't know if stole is the word.
No, they stole him. They broke in the middle of the night and they stole him.
But you got a chance to kind of hit a trifecta and really start something going with Bishop Gorman.
Oh, that'd be big. For obvious reasons. Powerhouse. Malcolm Simpson's another guy.
Yeah.
D lineman, the kid from Galveston. Again, he's got 4 stars by 24/7 Sports. He's. I'm not saying he's a must get, but it's the kind of guy you need to start. You need to start getting guys like that a little bit more. They're all pretty important when they're like, Brian Tapu, 6'8" and 300. These are the guys they're going to make a huge difference. Not that the Bryson Hayes don't make a difference and the Connor Boost don't make a difference. Of course they make a difference, but I don't know. I was talking to the Houston Christian coach, FCS coach. Mm-hmm. And he said the trend, and I think I talked to you guys about this earlier. The trend really is for the power programs to really emphasize the big men recruiting, because they can get the skill guys out of the portal. They can circle back to them. And a lot of schools do that. There's 64-star receivers. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's not 64-star offensive tackles. That's probably the best way to put it, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's 64-star receivers. There's there's probably about that many corners, but you don't find 64-star offensive guards. It's just that's not the way it works. So you can circle back on some of those guys.
Sip, as you look at the way the roster is currently constructed on those lines, both offensive and defensive, how do you feel that this staff has done in this couple years of sort of not just having guys that are ready to play right now with Nash and Ty, and obviously those guys coming back, or like Ben Hart and Ben Scott coming back, really help out in terms of allowing more time for development. But how do you think they've done in terms of backfilling to find the types of guys that they need on the lines?
Well, it looks good so far. If you think about offensive line, Grant Bricks as an example, that, I mean, come on.
Justin Evans was a big one.
Yeah, that looks good. I mean, I would say on the defensive side, we forget a little bit about Keona Wilhite because he was a late ad. Now he's an edge, but.
So wait, is he still going by Wilhite or is he Davis now?
Well, it's funny you ask because Terrence Knighton, whom I talked to in Belton, we had actually Belton and Houston.
Yeah.
He refers to him as Keona Davis.
Okay.
On the website, so I was kind of confused because on our website it's still Keona Wilhite. But anyway, he's a pretty good example. I mean, getting Hofken, the German, is a good. I thought that was. Now I'm in that camp. I'm so sort of surprised the reaction to David Hofken, who's the kid from Germany that they picked up for the class of 2024.
Yeah.
I have no reservations. I thought it would have been odd if they would have left without offering him. I mean, you just don't. I guess you kind of had. It was kind of a thing where you had to be there, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he looked to me like a no-brainer when I saw him in the pass rush. Now Nebraska recruited him as an offensive lineman, but when you see him coming off the edge as a pass rusher, you're like, oh God, he does have that bend, and he's a natural athlete. And he's vicious, and yeah, of course he can play offensive tackle. I mean, if he can pass rush like that and show that sort of athleticism, put him in a pass rush set and see what that looks like. And they did, and it looked really good. So that's a 2024 big. I mean, it sounds weird because they just got him, but he's a class of 2024 guy. So yeah, no, I think they've done good.
Get that paperwork fired up and make sure we can get him here.
Yeah, I think it'll be July, and there'll be some challenges, but they'll get him here.
All right, let me get you out of here on this, Maleficent.
Okay. Okay.
What do you think about Friday Night Lights, man? Are you seeing some guys pop? A lot of local guys, a lot of out of state guys, man. You seeing who's kind of caught your eye?
Well, I mean, last night, of course, it was. I mean, I just play the Dayton card, I guess. But you know that the Omaha kid, his brother Jones. What are those kids' names?
Donovan.
Yeah,
Jones from North.
Yeah, and Darian was there. I mean, Darian was there.
I like Darian quite a bit.
Yeah, Darian is a 2026 Omaha North corner. He looked like a corner to me, and he was working out with. Cooper had him work out. So Cooper pulled Darian Jones aside and worked him out. And that's always a good sign for a kid, right?
Yeah.
He pulled him and a kid from Kansas City out, RJ Collins. So they were working out with Cooper together. And I like that picture of Darian Jones. I don't know where that will go. Again, 2026 prospect. That's a good sign.
He is extremely competitive, Sip, and you like him because he used to be my neighbor. And obviously,
really? Did he really?
Well, Donovan and Caleb are roommates. Like his dad was a North guy, so we all coached together. It's a small world. You're not going to slip very many Omaha guys by me, but I'll tell you this about Darian. He is the mean-spirited, nasty one of the bunch. He is a Steven Sipple guy. Like,
I give him a hard edge.
He gives zero cares. He's the youngest.
Yeah.
He's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I gravitate towards athletes who have a hard edge for sure, and people.
Yeah. You'd like him.
Good, and but as far as the camps go, there's been a lot of guys. That Terwilliger was very interesting. Last week he's at 2027, but he's a no-brainer.
You like that name in Nebraska, Lord, don't you?
Familiar name.
Yeah, his dad played here, and he's a no. Well, wait a second. I don't think that's his dad. I don't know. I don't even know what the relation is, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's a no-brainer. When you watch him, it doesn't. Some of them you don't have to overthink, right? I mean,
that guy looks good.
He's big. He's a big 6 foot. I think he's 6'6". And
is it crazy after all these Friday nights to see all these offers going out? Like, it just used to be kind of for show, and they get these big names in, and then nobody would ever end up coming.
20 offers, I think, is what we're talking about so far.
Yeah.
And that
it was just 15 a week ago.
Yeah. So that is a big number. It's a serious. I like the picture. It's serious.
Yeah.
And it was great last night, by the way. On a less serious note, you know, my affinity for the Nebraska running back position over the years, and Corral Buckhalter was there, and his son.
He's a great guy.
Oh my God, yeah, he is, and he's the same guy. I mean, I talked with him a lot.
Nice, soft-spoken.
Kind of soft-spoken. Corral's super funny.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's super hilarious.
Yeah, my man still says scratch. Shout out to Corral Buckhalter. Like, that guy's the GOAT. He's a funny dude.
He reminded me one time he and Joe Walker were parked at a stop sign, and me and McKeever used to run all the time. I was a runner back then.
Uh-huh.
We ran by. They were at the stop sign. I waved to Corral, then fell, just tripped. And he reminds me of that. We had some times, like me and Corral. We were talking about D'Angelo Evans. We were cracking up about that in a good way. I mean, we both had. I don't know.
It's funny, Sip, that you were like looking at him and you fell. I always tell people, you know, media will get on guys. Why can't they play a ball in the air? Just look. And I'm like, hey, guess what? That's a super hard skill. Just go outside, jog, look up, and tell me what happens.
No, I know. I'm always. Hey, I play baseball. The ball starts moving when you're running. It's like, wait a second. How's that ball moving? No, I understand a football player. That's a little tough sometimes.
Oh, shit.
Sip, we appreciate it as always. That is Stephen Mauricio Sipple from Husker Online. I'm not gonna go Maleficent on you. It seems a little mean spirited. I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Me and Damon have a.
Yep, we go way back, man.
We'll watch Tank tonight and see what happens and see if he's the best.
Well, I'll be texting you, so you just make sure you respond.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
All right, Sip, we appreciate you.
See you later.
That's Stephen M. Sipple, Husker Online. Just a few minutes left here. Let's do a little predictions today for the college baseball games. First one up, NC State and Kentucky at 1 o'clock here. How you feeling?
So I told you I would think about taking a flyer on Kentucky because I think they're really
to win
really
it
good.
all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guess what I'm going to do?
I think you might go Kentucky here.
I'm going to take Kentucky. I like NC State more than most, though.
Yes, you're a little higher on them than most
I
people.
am. So it would not surprise me if they won because they are so savvy and mature. But I just think you need a one-time look at Kentucky.
What's your favorite word? Grimy.
Yeah. Well,
NC State grimy.
Yeah, and Kentucky that's a team that puts a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kentucky as well. That's a team. I know it's their first trip to Omaha, but they've been a good baseball program for a while now. And not being to Omaha until now is an outlier. Them being here is not the outlier. In my mind, I like Kentucky as well. Game number 2.
I'm
Florida and
I'm
A&M.
going with the upset.
You're going with Florida?
I'm gonna take Florida tonight.
I kind of was leaning there too. Like
I like a little bit of an upset here tonight.
I got this kind of weird feeling about, like, I don't know if they. I mean, you know, we heard Aaron Fitt talk about earlier how this was preseason number 2. There's no lack of talent on this team. Yeah. Like, is this? We asked our guy earlier this week. Is this just finally them figuring out?
Yeah, they're going to need to make contact tonight. They can't have the high strikeout rate, but I like Florida tonight.
I think I do as well. And also, you know, I hate Texas A&M. So stay petty.
Such a strong word.
Stay petty here. I want Trev stay in Omaha to be as short as possible.
Yeah.
He can GTFO just like he did before. So
shout out to Zipline.
Yeah, shout out to Zipline. We appreciate them hosting us. Shout out to Weitz as well
100%.
for helping sponsor and get us here today. Shout out
our man Cam Broham.
Shout out to Cam for producing. Shout out to DB for hanging out. And, of course, our guy Aaron Fitt for giving us a bunch of time off the top there. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Make sure you listen every weekday morning to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. Of course, you can always find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and check out all of Hurrdat Sports' social channels for full coverage of the College World Series. Enjoy your stay in Omaha. Hopefully we get a day just like yesterday in terms of those ball games. Have a good one, everybody.